Howdy, it's Kyle ranking the flags and capitol buildings for the Canadian provinces and territories. This is my most highly requested video topic, and I figured I could do both flags and buildings in the same video, being that there are only 10 provinces and 3 territories in Canada. I'm going to start with ranking the flags, and as an American, I'm not entirely familiar with all of the symbolism that's going on all the flags, including some of the British and Scottish coats of arms. So I'm going to be just ranking these based on how they look and how they represent the geography of the province or territory. This was the Canadian national flag up until the 1960s. That's when they adopted the maple leaf flag that we all know today. However, 2 of the provinces didn't like the fact that the flag was being changed and wanted to have their new provincial flag look like the old national flag. So you fast forward today, and these are the 2 provinces that have the worst flags in the country. At number 13 is Ontario, and as you can tell, it looks pretty much the same as the old national flag with a different coat of arms. The design of the flag itself is fine. It's a nice looking flag, but when it's just a derivative of the old national flag, well, that's not great. So what you end up with is Canada's largest province having the worst flag. At number 12 is Manitoba, and this is the other one that looks kind of like the old national flag with just a different coat of arms. So when you're deciding between Ontario and Manitoba, the only thing really to go by is what's on the coat of arms. So I'm going to go with Manitoba because of the bison as opposed to Ontario's maple leaves. At number 11 is Alberta, and this one looks a lot like what a lot of the American state flags look like. It's a blue background with a state symbol, seal, or coat of arms in front of it. So you've got the Rocky Mountains up top. I'm not sure what that's supposed to be in the middle, like a lake or maybe some islands or something. And at the bottom, you have the fields of wheat. So as a symbol, it represents Alberta pretty well, but on a flag, this doesn't look all that great. At number 10 is Prince Edward Island, and the overall design of the flag itself is fine, but the presentation comes off as kind of amateurish. It almost looks like a little kid was given a piece of paper and a crayon and asked to design the new flag. The trees are symbolic of the UK's relationship with Prince Edward Island, but overall the flag just doesn't look all that good. At number 9 is Northwest Territories. This is a huge area that is sparsely populated, and it's mostly just open woods and tundra. There's a lot of symbolism on this flag, with the blue wavy line representing the Arctic Ocean. The area in green represents the forest, and where it ends represents the tree line. And then you have that cute Arctic fox. Something as simple as the middle of it having a white background with blue stripes on the side, this really makes it look a lot better than it otherwise would. At number 8 is Yukon. And this is another very large, sparsely populated area directly east of Alaska. The overall design is similar to Northwest Territories in that there's a symbol over a white background, but the green and blue stripes on the side make it look pretty neat. There's a lot going on this flag, but one thing I like is that I do believe this is the only national, state, or provincial flag in the world that depicts a domesticated animal. Malamute dogs are an important part of the heritage there and used for dog sledding. So this is overall a very nice flag in terms of symbols and colors. At number 7 is Nova Scotia, and Nova Scotia is Latin for New Scotland. So if the name of your province is New Scotland, then you might as well have a derivative of the Scottish flag for your provincial flag. The Scottish flag is a blue background with a white cross, so this is a nice take on that. The coat of arms in the middle gives it a very Scottish look, which is very fitting for a province named Nova Scotia. At number 6 is Newfoundland and Labrador, and that is the official name of the province. It's a very striking design, but all of the colors and lines have a different symbolic meaning, although the symbolism is kind of obtuse. But for someone like me that doesn't understand all of the symbolism, one thing that stands out to me is there are 2 different sides of this flag. And that's a good way to represent a province that is both Newfoundland and Labrador. At number 5 is Nunavut, which is the most recently adopted territory. The entirety of this territory was part of the Northwest Territories up until the 1990s when it split off. And this is a huge territory that's very lightly populated and has mostly indigenous population. So the flag depicts a traditional waypoint used in the Arctic, and depicted in the upper right corner of the flag is the North Star. So overall, this is a very simple design for a flag, but I think it really represents the territory well. At number 4 is New Brunswick, and when you first look at this, you might first think England. With the line up there, it just looks very British. And the galley at the bottom of the flag references New Brunswick's shipbuilding heritage. So overall, it's a unique look for a flag, and I really like it. At number 3 is British Columbia. This is a pretty busy flag. If the name of your province is going to have the word British in it, then it should have a Union Jack and a crown depicted on it. And the sun depicted at the bottom symbolizes the sunset, as British Columbia is the westernmost province in the country. And having the sun on the flag is very fitting for British Columbia, being that they're not going to see the sun from November to March, so you might as well have it on your flag to remind you what it might look like. At number 2 is Saskatchewan. I really like simple flag design when it comes off really nice like this. The green in the top half of the flag represents the forested areas in the northern portion of the province, and the gold area in the bottom part of the flag represents all the wheat fields in the southern part of the province. I think the green and yellow combination makes it look really nice, being that you don't see green and yellow very often in national or subnational flags worldwide. And the best provincial flag for Canada is Quebec. Just a really simple design and color scheme, just a really nice looking flag, and it's probably the most iconic provincial flag in the country. And it's very fitting for Quebec to have a French symbol on its flag with the fleur-de-lis, being that most of the other provinces have a British or Scottish symbol on their flag. So overall, this is just a really good looking flag, and in my opinion is the best looking flag of all the Canadian provinces and territories. Now I'm going to count down the Capitol buildings, and in Canada most of them are referred to as legislative buildings, and some are called province houses or parliament buildings, but regardless of what it's called, they're all located in the city that is the capital for that province or territory. At number 13 is Newfoundland and Labrador. I'm not a fan of this building at all. The architecture is pretty blah and almost looks like they were trying to make up for the poor architecture by stacking it up in a way so it looks more official. So with the wings kind of tiered like that, it does look a little more official, but it's also like putting lipstick on a pig. So overall, pretty ugly building. And number 12 is Nova Scotia, and this is a small building that sits on a fairly small piece of land too. It looks more like it would be a courthouse or a library, not the legislative building for a province. So this is one where the architecture itself is fine, but I don't think it works really well for a parliament building. At number 11 is Prince Edward Island, and just like Nova Scotia, this looks like it might be more of a library or a courthouse. Especially with those front doors, looks like you can just walk up to it and knock on it. But I think a small parliament building works a lot better for Prince Edward Island, being that it is the smallest province in the country. But still, even though the architecture is nice, it isn't a great parliament building for a province. At number 10 is Yukon, and this was built in the 1970s and meant to have an indigenous type design to it. It's not the most striking looking building in the world, but with all that wood and the totems, I think it makes it look really good for an area that is up in the Arctic. Although there's nothing historic about this building, I think it does a good job of representing Yukon pretty well. At number 9 is Nunavut, and this is the most recently constructed building. It was built in 1999. The entire territory is a giant chunk of land with only 40,000 people, so it doesn't need to have a big grand building there. And it's also located in the tundra, so it has a lot of freeze-thaw effects, and therefore it needs to have a different type of base to it than other buildings might be in other parts of the country. So I do think this is a nice looking building. I like how it's asymmetrical. I like the coloring for the front and how the windows look with it. So of course, being the setting in the tundra, you're not going to have lush green gardens out in front of it. And it's almost always going to have a little bit of snow and ice in front of it. At number 8 is Northwest Territories, and this is the strangest looking of all the legislative buildings. It looks kind of like a UFO, maybe. It's got kind of a strange shape to it, but I like it. And just like Yukon and Nunavut, it was designed to have an indigenous look and feel to it. And the inside of it is pretty cool too. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to find some really good photos of it, but it is a nice looking building. At number 7 is Manitoba, and this is the type of look you normally expect to see with provincial and state capitals. I do like the dome on top, but the front facade of the building looks kind of bland. I don't know if it's the windows or the coloring or what, but it just doesn't look all that great. But if you're driving around Winnipeg and you look up and you see this, you'll know for sure it's the Parliament building. At number 6 is Alberta, and this is another one that follows that same traditional type design. Although everything about this one, the dome, the front facades, the columns, just all of it looks a little bit better than Manitoba's. The grounds are nice, there's some nice water features there, and just overall is a nice looking building for the provincial capital for Alberta. At number 5 is Saskatchewan. Has a really nice take on that traditional style of government buildings. I like how the dome was much darker than the part underneath it, and it also has some really nice landscaping out front of it. So this is a nice, big, grand building for one of the prairie provinces. At number 4 is Ontario, and the first thing I notice is just how different this looks from all of the other Parliament buildings. I like the asymmetrical design of the wings, and the overall building just looks very powerful. You can tell some big things are going on in here, which is true because it's the most populous province for the country. At number 3 is New Brunswick, and just like Nova Scotia and Prince Edward Island, this is a pretty small building, but unlike those two, I think this one looks really good as a parliament building. I love how the dome and the top floor look a little bit different than the bottom floors. The windows look good, and those older buildings that flank the sides of it also look pretty nice. So overall, this is just a really nice building, and the size of the building matches well with the relative size of New Brunswick. At number 2 is Quebec, and just like how its flag has French touches on it and everybody else's has British touches, this building also has French touches to it as well. This is a very grand and stately building, and when you see this, you know it's something really important. I really like that tall tower part in the middle, and the Quebec flag looks really nice flying on top of it. It's got some nice landscaping, and it's just overall situated in a very historic part of Quebec City. So this is a really nice building that does a really good job of representing Quebec's French heritage. And the best legislative building in Canada is British Columbia. Although it does kind of generally follow the same design of some of the other legislative buildings in the US and Canada with domes and stuff, but it just looks so much different in this capacity. I like those separate wings off to each side. I like how there's a bunch of different domes and they're all off color from the main building. So this is just a gorgeous piece of architecture that represents the province very well, and if this were one of the US capitals, it would be the number 1 in the country. So those are my rankings of the flags and parliament buildings for Canada, and by my account, Saskatchewan, New Brunswick, Quebec, and British Columbia were top 5 in both categories, and Prince Edward Island was bottom 5 for both categories. But don't worry, PEI, it's not because your flag and building is ugly, it's because you're an inferior province. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up to let me know you approve, and subscribe to this channel if you're interested in learning more about geography. I'm usually talking about the US, but I'll dip my toe into Canada, Mexico, and the Caribbean, so I'm talking about ranking things and comparing and contrasting cities and states in various categories, cross-country road tripping, just a lot of fun things about geography from a more nerdy type perspective. But yeah, thanks for watching. Geography King, signing out.